Hi, I'm Kelly Harris, Global Director of Training for Lake Country. One of our most important brand values is education, which is why we're committed to help people get the most out of their polishing experiences. The LC Assist program is another way of us giving back to the detailing community by sharing real-world examples of pain point problem solving. We hope you find this long-form feature interesting and follow us on our journey. Stay tuned. Mike's all right. Hi guys, Kelly Harris here from Lake Country Manufacturing. Should we start with who you are, with your name?
I'm Alex and I own Pure Detailing based in Essex, the Essex area.
So we've, off camera, had a little bit of a discussion of obviously how you started and why. And now, you don't have to go in massive detail, but it sounds like a very similar to me. Obviously, there's a bit of a 30-something plus years gap here. But you did a similar thing to me when I was in my late 30s, that I decided the job I was doing was a good job, good paying job, but didn't interest me, didn't get me excited. And I remember, well, explain how you first told me the story in a moment. But you had a job and you had to decide, didn't you? Yeah,
I previously worked in like IT, and I started the mobile side of the business first, and I was working just weekends doing obviously the mobile side. I believe that you've got to go and look for the work. If I just sat there, how can I expect people to find my business?
Yep.
So I've always got to go out and network, speak to people, sort of encourage them to use our services. So then I just came to the decision of leaving my previous job and going full-time in January last year.
So your story, you told me, it's very funny. We discussed earlier, you paid out your own money to go to SEMA 2022.
Yep.
And this is probably the time to introduce or explain who's, I'm going to say family member. You can explain who he is as a family member. But and we bumped into each other because of this great guy. So you explain who he is, because it's your family.
Yeah, so my cousin is obviously Jack from Starnagloss.
Character, a proper character. And he come running over to me and then stood there chatting about you, and he was like, honestly, you got to meet him, got to meet this guy, got to meet this guy. Now, I'm getting goosebumps now. I was probably, I don't know, 5 minutes, even though you probably spoke like I would for 30 minutes.
Yeah, I was.
It doesn't matter, I'm the same. You literally was going, blah, all excited. I'm standing there going, yep, I'm sold. 1 minute in. And you carried on for like 30 minutes telling me your story, which is great. It's so passionate. And then you're chatting away, and I'm already thinking, I've got an idea what I'm going to do with you. You've been detailing for just about a year now?
It's in the first year. Like, I'm proud of where we've got to in the first year, but it's now just almost perfecting our work, getting better understanding of the whole aspects of everything from detailing. This is only like the start of the business, and hopefully in the next 5-10 years, we're sitting in a lot stronger position than we are now.
So currently, Jack is in Tokyo. Yeah. And you told me you could have gone there with him, but obviously, as a new young business, you can't really afford to go there. And I bet you're gutted to not be with him.
I am. Like, I saw obviously the stories of him there.
Konnichiwa. All the way from Tokyo. Alex, you massive ginger sausage. I love you. Be careful with Kelly. He talks a good talk, but it's all glazes and fillers. I'm joking. Kelly, Lake Country, thank you so much for looking after Alex. Alex, where you've come in the last year blows me away. You're already better than me at polishing. All you need now is the skip and you'll be taking over Starnagloss. To everybody at home, thank you so much for supporting my little cousin and Kelly Harris from Lake Country. They're both a couple of legends for very different reasons. I'm going to see the rest of Tokyo and I'll be home very soon. I love you lots.
Unfortunately, you're not with Jack, you're with me.
It's not such a bad thing.
Oh, okay. But that's a great, interesting journey. This is my role. You know, people don't understand. This is my reason why I've changed my business. It's like for you, your bit's exciting. It's the cars. For me, it's
100%.
like it's another car. You know, I've done a lot. So this part, as we said earlier, I told you the truth. I said I'm almost bored and stale of that. Yeah. This is what I enjoy. This is what I like: the shows, the interaction.
You want to give back to people.
Correct.
Like
that's all it is.
You've obviously done all the hard work and learned the full knowledge of what you know. Now it's sort of time to pass the baton on.
Of course.
So I gave Kelly a call last week saying obviously we've got this car in for correction and it's been difficult. That's like the best way to describe
Sounded like you was going to cry on the phone.
Yeah, I called you and I was like, we've literally spent days on the car and we're not really we are obviously improving the paintwork, but I said, obviously from a business point of view.
Not very efficient, is it? Yeah,
we need to be obviously efficient when working on cars, and there are some big defects in the paintwork.
So, if I remember rightly, and you can correct me, I think you said you'd use the HO microfiber pads.
Yep.
And majority of was coming out. There's certain areas that weren't, and you was shocked, because normally that would be a very heavy hitting pad.
Yeah, definitely. So I worked on the driver's side rear arch, and we was working on the panel, but I could still see defects in it, and I'm like, how? I've spent so long on this panel, and we're going over and over.
And you originally rang me for advice, and I went, stop, stop. This is a perfect video for everybody if you've got a pain point. So he's now here. We've had to wait and delay the customer's car. You've had to ask the customer.
Yeah, I asked the customer if obviously we could keep the car another week to obviously do some work together on the car.
So I've not actually seen the car. You've washed this car this morning, and then film guy on the camera, he's all round and looked at it with you. I've not looked, so I've literally come out of my office. So can you show me where the worst problem is? Let's go round, and so you might as well show me what you have polished and what you've struggled with.
So the worst problem we've got is you see on the bonnet here, if you come this side, you see.
Yeah, okay, I can see it now. So we don't actually need that light, but I can see it with that light, yes. That's a very, very deep defect. Okay, and I can see that with the other lights and a strip lamp as well. So
almost you see it more when you actually take the spot off.
Does he want this as good as it can be?
Yeah.
Right, fine. Because obviously there's a difference with obviously what the customers want. So what we'll do is I'm going to use a paint thickness gauge or paint depth gauge, some call it thickness of paint and depth. It's just going to read total amount, and that total amount is just going to give me a broad guide if the car's been painted or not, if it's original, and then it's just a rough idea. It doesn't tell much clear coats on it. It just tells me a sort of total value.
From the metal.
Yeah, from the metal, or it can be ferrous or non-ferrous to the top. Now, when I measure in a minute, if we get what looks like an original reading, we've painted cars in here before, and we've actually painted the panel, a brand new panel, to be exactly the same thickness as the original panels because the customer's asked. So that means it is a painted panel, but it didn't show it's a painted panel. There's other ways you can tell, but let me get my gauge.
Yep.
So I've calibrated it already on a calibration shims, but it wouldn't matter to me if this was reading 5 microns out at the moment. I'm just going to go around and check generally a few areas of each panel for consistency.
Yep.
And all I'm doing there is quickly getting an overview of each panel. In case it's had a smart repair in an area, it probably hasn't. And all I'm looking at here is just quickly sort of getting a gauge of those figures are bang on what I'd expect of an original paint. It might still be painted, but it's unlikely. It's unlikely, so we're getting a very consistent reading. Now, so can't do the roof's carbon fibre, can't do the boot because it's plastic. I have another gauge for that, which we can possibly use later, but the panel in question, we can use this gauge anyway. Now, how many miles has this car done?
21,000.
So it's, that's a lot of miles that could have easily had an accident or repaint. The fact it's got stone chips on the panel, and this is all shown original. I can get the other gauge out, which measures on plastic. I'm going to show you briefly, because this will measure separate individual layers of paint. Not clear coat, paint. So they measure on plastic, carbon, concrete, wood, anything really. Now, I'm going to take a reading, and then I can adjust the figure, not the actual figure it gets, but I have to interpret that. which is I've got lots of readings here now. I'm now adjusted it to read just the top layer, which is the clear coat. I've got 54 microns.
Yeah.
So I might as well show it to camera. I've got 54 microns, but what I do is I can zoom in and out, which I'll go through on another day, because when I start zooming in and out, you get the total thickness now.
Yeah, 109.
109, and we've had like about 110 on there.
Yeah.
So that's now showing just one layer, all of it.
Yeah.
If I adjust this, it'll show the separate layers. Yeah. But you do that literally after. You can actually do that after you've taken the reading. But you must use a gel, you must interpret what you're seeing on a gauge, and then you adjust it to dissect what you see.
Yep.
So that's telling me I've got a good, healthy layer, which is actually matching the other type of gauge. So one was eddy current and that was ultrasound.
Yep.
So I'm happy to polish that. I will take that little blob of that away. So looking at the defects, I could take that, remove those with a DA machine, dual action machine off, random orbital polisher, and a microfiber or wall pad. Now, I'm easy to do this either way. I could do it a couple of ways. I can remove it, you watch me, or you can polish and I watch you and explain.
I'm more than happy to do the polishing.
And I think it should be you, because then you're struggling with this and I look at that and go, that is deep, it is very, very deep. And I would measure as we go.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do, I'm going to measure. I might even put a laser pen, as I've got one, on the windscreen with a light. We can measure exactly.
The point that we're obviously hitting.
Because it is deep. And then as we do this, I can explain to you what I think is a safe amount of clear coat removal.
Yep.
Well, for longevity of the car.
But that's especially where this is a relatively new car. You don't want to just thin the clear coat out.
No. Yeah, so what I'll do, I'll go and get the laser pen, we'll put it on the screen there and we'll take some readings for the camera. I'll put this right in the middle of all those defects. But I've got to make sure I find an area where the probe doesn't measure in the scratch or down a dent or shallow, because you're measuring the lower.
Yeah.
So I'm using, yeah, exactly that. I'm using the high spot. I'm trying to look, so I know where I'm going to place the gauge, and there doesn't seem to be a scratch or defect where it's all around it. I mean, it's all over there, isn't it?
Yeah.
So now I've got that there. I'm going to measure in a moment, but there's sort of a myth. It's weird that, you know, rotary is more aggressive or DA is more aggressive, and there is a true in this. One's more than the other on certain pads. But it's funny because someone says they won't use a rotary to remove defects quick because it's dangerous, but then might use a dual action machine with like a wall pad or a microfiber 5 times.
But then it's more cut from the type of pad.
Well, it's not even that. Even if the DA was slightly less, let's say each time you pass over a rotary it's 2 microns and the DA was 1, and they do it twice for the rotaries, it's 4 microns.
But then they do it.
And then they do it 5 times the DA and take off 5 microns. Yeah. Ultimately, there's more removal of material with the dual action, but they believe it's taken off less because it's safer.
But that's because you're not essentially measuring after.
Yep. So we're going to measure a progress because of how deep that is. Now, have you polished that at all?
No.
So, and it's not shiny, it's got swirls in it, so that's the worst area. I can see like microscopic swirls. So that hasn't been polished. That's a good reading. The reading with the dual layer, multi-layer gauges give me a healthy thickness over in the middle, and it's all very similar. So I'm happy for you to polish that wherever you want. I don't mind, you choose what you want. Yeah. And is it worth you choosing what you struggled with to start with? It's your choice.
Yeah, see, I've used both a rotary on this and a DA.
Okay.
Sort of, I was...
On the car, and the rest of the car, yeah?
Yeah, so we obviously started with a DA, and then it was...
So let me take some
removing, obviously, defects, but just taking a really long time. So then we started, obviously, rotarying parts of it to try and take the defects out, and then, obviously, DAing after.
So we've got a nice figure of 100 microns. It's a lovely, perfect, lovely figure. Easy to remember. So that, personally, the defect, where it is, borderline.
And it's all round.
Yeah,
it's like this.
I can see, yeah. I'm just looking at one area. I would actually be using a rotary.
Yeah.
A rotary is going to round off those scratches, and they will look like they're nearly gone, but not.
Yeah.
Whereas a dual action machine generally doesn't round off as efficiently. So I would prefer to use a rotary on that and round them off, because as the figure goes down, there'll be an amount of material removal. I'm going to say stop. If you start using a foam smooth pad, with a dual action machine, it doesn't round off in and out where the wall fibres on a rotary do. So for that reason, I would prefer to use a rotary. Now, because of the size of them, and it's a small area, I might even go for a smaller 3-inch machine, but let's try it with a large machine to start with. So what we're going to use is, now we've got a choice here of a couple of wall pads. Now, the one I'd go for would be the purple foam wall pad, and we've got 2 choices. Have you ever used this?
No.
Right.
I picked one up the other day after I spoke to you.
So the simplest way to remember this, that really, I would say, is nearly a rule, dual action only.
Yeah. Is that just where obviously it's so thin?
So
you've not got the foam.
You're getting on. You're sort of there really. But this is a rotary because when it's on dual action, the fibres will flop around when it's oscillating, and it won't actually transfer. If you've got a 15mm dual action machine now, you're not going to get 15mm on that.
All you're doing is bending the fibres.
But that's really a rotary. This can be used on a rotary, and I have used it on a rotary for scratches like this. But remember, it's going to clog very, very fast. So it's going to need a lot of cleaning. That's going to last longer. So this can be used on a rotary. But if you really want to sort of make it simple, I'd say long fibre, one's rotary, short's for dual action. I'm going to just carefully wipe that in so it doesn't fling too much, because I'm going to quite quickly go up onto the edge. So I've got it just around the outside. So the edge will give me more cut without having to push so hard. And I'm using the outside diameter as it's spinning, which is the fastest part of the pad. So I'm using everything with me for being more aggressive. So I'm going to do just a little area where the light is, the laser light. So you see I've spread the compound, and then it's all spread on there. Now I'm going to just pick up an area, a small area, and just work. I'm not going to do all of it in one go. I'm going slow. I'm not going fast at the moment because so I've got many chances here to turn the speed up if I want to. This is literally like a test spot. I'd call this a test spot that I'm working mainly over the worst area, but I'm spreading out as well to pick up any residue compound that's flung. Now I'm going to go flat, just to clean the area. And I'm going to just wipe it off, and I've gone very slow speed. It'll be cold.
Yeah, it's not that hot.
No, it'll be cold. It won't be hot yet because I wasn't being aggressive. I can be a lot more aggressive than that when it comes to polishing a rotary. I'm just testing because I don't think it's that hard, this paint, and I think if I went in heavy, meaning I really leant on the machine, turn the machine up, I think it would take a lot more off than it's needed. Yeah. So it's a good practice at the moment because we've got splatter. Before that dries out, I mean, it's going to take us a few hours, but I want to definitely wipe it off there because obviously we're just doing a test spot. I don't mind it smeary. I just don't want to get it go thick and hard. Yeah. So let's wipe it with another one. So already there's an effect happened. It's not huge, but it's definitely starting to round off. And then you're always sort of guessing with your eye of how much. Ways to get the gauge. So I've checked it reads 0. We know we're in exactly the same spot as last time. It's got 98, what I'm going to do, so that's 2 microns. I'm going to wipe the area, wipe the probe, take it reading again. So 2, maybe 4 microns. So let's call it 3. So that polishing there, that compound, that was a heavy cut compound. Not extra heavy, not really, it's just a medium to heavy compound. That wall pad at low speed, that's done a lot already.
Yeah.
So if I'd then gone in with a heavier cut wall pad, turned the speed up and heavier cut compound, it took a lot off.
Yeah.
Now, that's not going to take a lot to remove, and that's why I can see already that it's started to round off a lot of them defects. We can see holograms. I think it's worth showing the camera that we can see holograms. To show that I'm not worried about the holograms at all. So I can see the holograms there. Definitely see them.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah. So would that scare you normally to see them that bad?
What, the holograms?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, it's all right. As long as I need to know. Because that looks worse before it's got better.
Yeah, no, but
this
that's fine. It's like any type of rotary work.
Yes. So I'm going to say that I think you can just go over that flat.
Yeah.
Now, it's going to be slightly less cut. By tipping, you just increase the cut level, that's all.
The cut, but like you said, where it's rounding off on the edges, it's now...
We're going to do it again, because 2 microns, 3 microns, it's absolutely safe. We've got 50 to 55 in most areas of microns on there, that's plenty. So this is what I'd say. There's a lot of myth behind this, and I've dealt with a lot of paint reps and technicians over the years because of painting cars, and they've always, lots of people say there's a maximum amount of clear coat you can remove, but no one's ever gave me a definitive answer, an exact answer, and why. The reason why you can't take too much off, as the clear coat gets thinner, it will foul, it can crack and delaminate over time. UV protection's in clear coats. As the clear coat gets thinner and thinner, there's less. But if you're going to have a show car that's going to be garaged a lot and be protected with nano coatings a lot and looked after, my opinion is, I've never seen a car, in ones that I've wet sanded heavily for removing orange peel, I've ever had a problem, but I've seen unloved cars with loads of clear coat foul.
In worse condition.
So, if we get round about sort of 10, 12 microns and it's gone, I'm happy, that's when I start going, do you know what, it's going towards a quarter of the clear coat. Once we get up about, about 15 microns, it's a quarter of the clear coat's being removed. One little area, if it was down low, not so bad. If it's on a high area, with the heat of the car, and the sun. So you're trying to think about things like that with
the longevity of the paint as well.
So do you want to have a go? Just put a little bit of compound on. And now I'd say you just want to do that area. If you notice, I was quite cautious of the edge. But remember, that was 2 microns, 3 microns. A human hair's on average 100 microns. A couple of blobs like that, that'd be fine. And I would just feather the trigger to start. You don't. If you want to rub them in, it's up to you. But some people pat the pad down, don't they? They spread it out that way. But I would use that flat then, Alex. I would just use that flat. So make sure on low speed. And I would literally be relaxed. Is that on number 1? Yeah. And I would actually pull the trigger half to spread it out, and just try and do the area. That's it. And don't go too far up here because it wasn't there. And now you can turn your speed up. Just pull the trigger all the way. That's it. And just let it glide. So if this was one deep defect, I would definitely tip the pad so that it's working on the one, because you've got a collection, we call it like a cluster over a large area. That's perfectly fine. And I'm certain we'll find less removal. Don't slow down too much, you'll be all right. The key here is to remove all of it evenly, so you do all the areas the same. And if you do it in small sections, you do it exactly the same amount in small sections. And remember, you can always stop, check. So diminishing compounds, this has gone oily. You've lost the cut now. As a compound goes oily, it's basically worn itself out and you've got the lubricating oils left.
So you've not got any of the...
So what happens is, most people do this wrong with detailing. If that's got deep defects like that, and you carry on doing this for like 5 minutes, no harm. What you're trying to do, you've cut heavily, and now all you're doing is refining your cutting marks more and more, so the buffer lines are less severe.
But you're not actually removing the defect.
If you wipe that off and it's still there, you might as well stop and put more compound on. 2 things that happen. The pad clogs quicker and you get sling. But sometimes it's more efficient just to put another bit of compound on and do it again.
Work on top of the compound that's already on the vehicle.
You can do.
Or wipe it.
If you need to check it, in this case you want to see our progress, I'd always wipe it.
Wipe it.
So if you put the machine down, and we can wipe and have a look now. So definitely rounding off.
It's getting better.
I'm looking over there as well. So, because you have to try and map out where's the worst bit. There's some here. So you was right. You was working here more, went over it occasionally. But look, I can easily measure it again. And it's just repeat, really. It's just measure and repeat. Take that away, though. Take this away. You can see why people would be very afraid.
Yeah, it is, because you have
no idea, have you?
If you don't know what sort of paint depth you're working with, you're just essentially guessing.
All the time.
And you can't be guessing with essentially a customer's paintwork.
So, doesn't surprise me. We got 96.
Yeah.
We had like 98, sometimes 91, maybe one.
Yeah.
So look, the difference is, when I tip was 2, when you went flat as one. Now, you could easily see why I'd say you put the compound, go over it briefly, stop, wipe it dry, put more compound on, do it once or twice maybe even 3 times. So now I wouldn't keep checking this.
Because you know,
I'm confident that's going to need a couple more.
It's taking off between 1 and 2 microns depending on...
So at the moment, we think 3 to 4 microns, and you can already see there's a big improvement.
Yeah, massive improvement already.
Now, what if I showed you, if I used a dual action machine with a DA, that would also do the same. So it's interesting how I know if I use our microfiber, the HGO microfiber, the blue microfiber cutting disc, as we call it, on there with a medium cut compound, I believe I'm going to get similar results without the buffer lines.
So then you're not then removing holograms.
That's not my problem. I'm just saying here, it's interesting how you've been going around the car thinking you have to use a rotary. It might be how you're using our pads, or the amount of compound, or what type of compound you're using, or technique. So I think that the way to do it here is, let's get this done and stick to rotary, stick. But I think that what you're doing with a microfiber pad, with a dual action machine, there might be something that you're missing that we can show you. Because I'm now confident how the hardness of this clear coat on this panel isn't that hard that I couldn't do that with, I could do that with dual action. But let's stick with the wall pad. On this. Let's prove it can be done with a wall pad first.
Yeah, no, I get you.
So you might as well do that again. Have another go. And another tip for speed.
Just put it, you need to pull the lid off.
Yep, and you shut it down. Good you have. It's a good habit, but you could do that and just place it in the middle and then spread it out quickly. Half trigger, speed down obviously, half trigger, spread it out, that's it. And just turn it on and do it again. The work in the area it had the most, remember, which was here. This is a lot less. And so that was why I said this was, when you first put compound on, it's the most aggressive. The moment it starts rubbing and it's doing a job, it diminishes. So if you spread the compound over a large area with a small amount, it's less aggressive than a larger amount of compound over a smaller area.
When would you say that obviously the compounds are becoming too oily?
Nearly now for what we need with this.
Is that just through the wall pad?
A little bit of the wall, the type of compound I gave you. The compound I gave you is a very oily compound that flatters wall pads. So, let's have a look then. It flatters a wall pad a little bit because I like to, when you start using natural wall, if you don't use an oily compound, what happens is that the oil gets sucked into the fibres and it becomes chalky and clumpy and it clogs. As soon as you get a dried out pad, it clogs. You can end up with quite bad holograms from a dried out bit of compound. So some of the compounds on the market, some of the newer compounds that are more for dual action foam pads, they work okay, but they don't have that oiliness, it helps it glide. But I'd still achieve the same results. It's a preference really, that's all it is. And you don't need to clean down everywhere, we're just looking at the area you've done and we can measure that. So what does it look, can you see an improvement again now? I can.
Yeah, I can.
Now remember, we've already said if we use our light, it's hard to see them now. So it's hard, in the sun, more likely not to see it, because we're using the sharp, straight edge of a strip lamp to see it. It's already becoming difficult to see. You have to remember, it's almost like being snowblind. We've got the best lights here. You're starting to stare at the best possible lights the customer's not got. If this hadn't removed all of it and we took a reading and it was low, we'd go, stop. You could easily panic going, I'm disappointed. But we have got every type of light source possible there to see.
The minute you pull, obviously, a car outside, when you've got it in a lighting area like this.
Customers' expectations, if all the rest of the car is perfect and there's a couple of deep defects, I'd actually tell the customer and point out where they are and say they're still there and the reason why.
It's not safe to go any further.
But when I've done this and pointed, even their lights, most of the time they go, I can't see it.
But it's having eyes. This is what we're looking for, issues like this on paint, whereas most people go, my car's shiny.
And the word issue you just brought up is a very good word to use, that detailers have their own issues of what they see. So that's a very good word to use. It's a nice segue there to say, don't sometimes control yourself, stop panicking. Of when you told me on the phone, I was like, okay, because when you told me the car and what's going on, it was like, this seems weird, this doesn't seem right. It was almost like you had a panic, a mental block.
Yeah.
So that, I mean...
You can still obviously hit it, but it's...
Look, we can measure again. It gives us confidence. If we measure it and it hasn't hardly changed, I've got a shim that these come with for calibration. One's 22 microns. When you put in your fingers, you can hardly feel it. You would struggle to feel 2 to 4 microns in your hand. I'm not even going to probably check it, calibrate it. I'm sure it's going to read, 96, look. That was me, didn't put it down straight. So that could be dirt. But as you can see, there's hardly any change at the moment. It's unmeasurable. It's, to most people, it's a small amount. Very, very small amount. 94, really clean. So we're down to 6 now. Bearing in mind, I wet sand cars and take off 6 microns, 6 to 7 microns, and I used to sand cars years ago, and I was taking off double that because of my technique could have been refined better, and I've never had a problem. And there's body shops and people all around the world polishing all day long, taking huge amounts of clear coat off, because we're using a heavy, medium to heavy compound. It's not a heaviest pad on the slowest speed. That's really safe. That's what I think a DA would work. But you might as well do it again. I would say you go. I think it's going to need one more. If I was to polish, it would want one of my methods of pushing, tipping. But you can do that. I think it's going to take 2 more goes. So again. What's worth noticing as well is slightly more here than here now. But just that's all you need. But see the confidence it gives you to have a pinpoint area and a measurement. Makes it so easy to do. And it's lukewarm. It's not hot at all.
No, it's not hot at all.
Say, if I tip, it actually run cooler.
Because
of the cold air going under the air, and you got more cut. But let's wipe it off and check it. It's not hard, was it?
No, not at all.
But I need you to, in your head, and you're right to do what you've done, to panic and worry and be concerned, and it looked like deep defects, is perfect. To be cautious of customers' pride and joy and ask for help is perfect, because that means you're going to be a better person, a better detailer, a better business. But it's interesting that once you have this, a simpler bit of equipment I've designed and made is 3 parts and then a gauge, you can already see how easy it's going. I mean, now that's nearly gone. I could easily now switch to a DA and a microfiber pad, because I know that's going to give us an additional cut and remove the buffer lines. So it's working smart. It's working smart there as well, that's the thing.
It's also saving time.
It's, and clear coat, even though it's tiny amounts. In the early days, I used to think it was all millimeters thick, and then when you find out it's not, and it's microns, I will do a calibration to sort of check it's 0. And as I thought, honestly, myself, I wouldn't have got all this out. Because that's just years and years of experience. Looking at defects, quickly check the paint in thickness, I knew it was fine. But that's experience, and I've got this equipment. And also I've taught 180 people one-to-one for a week, then group people, and I've been teaching for 11 years, and before I started 11, it's actually 12 years, nearly 13 years. So before I was teaching, I would do this 100 times on different cars and panels with all the gauges to make sure I knew exactly what was going on every single time before I started teaching. And you easily forget that.
Yeah.
So I can just walk up to a car anywhere in the world, pretty much, polish it, and know what to use. And then they say, how do you know that? And I'm like,
experience.
Yeah. I'm like, I wish I could just give you a chart. So I know that one over there is not as deep as this one. And I can easily prove you one day we're going to take a reading. If we're going to do that one, I know it's less. So I can physically see. I don't know what the thickness is, but I can tell it's deep or medium. But so we're at 6 microns. That's fine.
Yeah.
And I said,
well, you can see is almost probably 70-80% out now. You've essentially really got to look for it, whereas before it stood out.
I'm now having to really bend my head. So I think that wants, not everywhere, I'm trying to scale over there, it's just here, isn't it?
It's here, and
then one, let's have a look.
There's up there.
Yeah, there's one there as well.
It's mainly this strip here, that essentially would
So
need
now you've
another
seen
pass.
that, I don't believe, I'm just going to double check, you need to go up there at all now. No.
You can see just there. Yeah, it's sight.
So I just go up and down side to side. So let me do it for a change. You watch me, and I'm just going to almost use your method, really. I'm going to tip a little bit, and I'm just going to quickly, because it's here, not over there. I'm just going to put the compound on. I'm just going to go up and down with a slight tip. I'm putting a bit of weight down now.
Yeah.
And do you notice the compound's not so oily?
Yeah.
Because of the fresh air, it's keeping it cooler.
Oh, well, I say it's lasting longer.
So I'll get more cut for longer.
And you're keeping temps down, so you can...
I'm now going to go flat. And look how I'm kissing up to the edge but not over.
Yeah.
This will look worse for buffer lines because I'm being slightly more aggressive in my actions. So I'm going to wipe the compound off dry with a dry clean cloth. And then I'll use a panel wipe, an alcohol wipe. I never ever use an alcohol wipe on really thick compound. I don't like to do that because what happens is the compound's got a lubricant in there that helps any media slide off, glide off with the cutting media. If you wash that out and then rub hard,
then it becomes
the paint. So I'd always wipe dry, then switch, and then you've got lube left now and a bit of smear. Now you're actually using the alcohol to remove the fine, thin residue and the sort of lube, really, just to be able to see how good it looks for buffer lines, because we can see the defect without even panel wiping it. You check that.
Can't see that defect.
And I'm going to go over it with a microfiber anyway. I'd always use a microfiber pad with a medium cut compound to remove holograms. Then you finish with a foam. And the same, so if you do the rest of this car with a microfiber and foam, it'd be the same too, microfiber and foam.
You're getting the same results on the bonnet to the wing.
Yep, so we can take a reading. And what we'll do, we'll actually polish out the microfiber as well, just to show the total amount removed. So we've got 92 microns. That's absolutely fine. You can see, we've looked at that you can't really see the defects anymore. It's all more, there's more. The biggest issue for me now is the buffer lines. That's what I can now see, the holograms. So I'm going to switch over to the HO microfiber pad, which is actually the pad you originally used. And remember, there's 92. And we've, on average, every time we went over with the rotary mode, with a wall pad, a purple foam wall pad, and a heavy cut compound, between 1 and 2 microns. If we average it at 2 microns, so if we got 2 microns with this, we're going to go switch to, I'm going to probably use a 15mm mode on this and a medium cut compound. If we take off 2 microns of this, that means it would have been just the same.
Same using obviously the D8 rather than a rotary.
Yes. But I said earlier on the camera that I like a rotary because if it wasn't all gone, it does round it off more. So I'm going to switch to P2 mode, which is the 15mm orbit. I'm going to use a medium cut compound. You're going to use a medium cut compound, so you're on the machine. I want you to put on the amount of compound that you would place on that pad, because I've not actually seen you use a microfiber pad.
Probably like that.
Okay, so start to polish. So it's going to turn the speed up now, then dual action mode. Go higher. Go on, keep turning the machine up, Alex. That's better. There's a different gearing. You need to turn it up faster. That's it. I know why you couldn't get the scratches out using that machine, or the dual action machine. It's your process.
Yeah.
It's all your process. Now it's answered everything I need to know. So I can explain, and we'll explain it on camera, how I can massively help you cut quicker using our pad. Yep. And you will get micro-marring pigtails as well a little bit from using that, as you currently are. Yep. So let's wipe this off and just see that the defect's gone, and then I'll explain what you can change for the future to be more efficient, for much quicker at polishing, or correcting. Let's call it correcting. So there's some still deep. Can you see some lines now from a hologram, leftovers? So I'm going to have to capture it on camera. I don't know if you've seen them at the angle there. There's some straight, very slightly curved lines. Yes. What you're doing is there's deeper rotary buffer lines left. Yep. So you would say two things. You could do two assumptions. The rotary buffer lines are very deep, or that's not good enough, heavy enough cut to remove them. Currently, how you've just used that pad, no. It's not the pad's fault, it's your fault. And you probably didn't know this, that if I had a foam pad to hand, which I haven't, but if I had one of our foam pads, I was just looking at our washing line to hand. If you have a foam pad and you put, sort of measure the surface area of the foam pad, it's very smooth, just slightly porous, the foam. Yep. These fibres are long and fluffy. There's a surface area of each one of the strands like a tree. That's what a microfiber is. It's strands on strands. So those strands have the ability to hold a lot more compound than a flat, smooth surface. Roughly 5 times the surface area. So at the moment, wherever there's not compound, so it's not pink, this is just plain microfiber rubbing over the surface. So all it's doing is essentially... No cut. You're not cutting, you're just rubbing against the surface, you're not cutting. Anywhere it's got the pink compound, and I've used the pink compound for this reason, to see what you're about to do, we can see it. If it was white compound, we wouldn't see it. All of this is wasted area that's not being cut. If that was foam, or the wall, especially wall on a rotary, that would have spread it evenly and uniformly coated the surface of the pad. Yep. And the foam doesn't really soak in much of the compound, it spreads over the surface. Microfiber and micro wall, we have our micro wall pad, it's very similar, it's got the same sort of backing, does the same thing. You need to prime this fully over the whole surface. Is that when, obviously, you need to put pressure? No. Nothing to do with pressure at all. You need to prime and put more compound on. The amount of compound I would have put on this pad to start with, the first time round, would have been this. And the amount of people I showed that said, how much compound do you get through? But that's what I would have done. First of all, I would never do it with my finger, but I won't do it with it. I'm just going to put it on here and show you I don't pat the out either. I just do this and then turn the speed on. I'm just going to spread it a little bit, low speed, to show you.
Look at the pad,
We've now got a lovely prime pad. And now I'm going to cut over there. Now we've done the microfiber, the cut, let's check, wipe it off, sorry. Yeah, just wipe it off first. You just wipe it dry, we don't use any panel wipe. I'll turn the gauge on. So you can inspect it now. You won't really need an inspection lamp. Just look at it with the lights we got there, what we're looking for. Yeah?
A lot better.
So before, look at that.
You can see the difference. Yeah. Obviously this side that's not been touched.
Yeah. So now we've got micro haze, but no swirls, obviously. And I cannot see now any issues left that I can't fix with refining. So I'm happy with that. So let's see what we took off in amount of clear coat with the microfiber. So there's 90. So you did a pass, I believe didn't do much at all.
Yeah.
Then I've put a lot more compound on and did a pass, it's 2. On standard medium hardness paint, not butter soft paint and not rock hard paint, because we've got training panels here that I can replicate different hardnesses of clear coat because we have different clear coats. I will easily get 2 microns in the way I was polishing there with a fully primed pad that's sort of not flat out speed, medium speed, no pressure.
Yeah.
If I did the same method of like the rotary slightly tipping with a little bit of arm pressure, almost imagine the weight of your hand, I can increase that to normally about 4 microns per pass. So it's really normal, if I wanted to, with a 15mm Orbit machine, a HDO microfiber pad, and a medium cut compound, I can get 4 microns per pass. I'm 2 to 4. Pupils normally do what you did, and they get none or 1, and they're like, look, it's not very aggressive. I thought microfiber was aggressive. It's because of this not priming the pad up. Most of the pad has got no compound on there. And the moment you do that and realise, it makes so much sense, it's so logic.
It does.
So when you're saying you're using on the phone the HDO microfiber pads and you're not getting the defects out, I could have thought, damn, that's really rock hard paint or really deep defects. And it could have been.
Yeah.
But when you said what car it was and the age, I was like, I know what it's going to be.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to say anything. I could have said to you and done that right at the beginning.
Me a lot of time.
And I think it was on camera, I said, I can fix that with a microfiber. And I didn't want to. I want you to go through the whole process of the rotary. And the funny thing is, you're better actually with your method with a rotary because microfiber, I think, is unique. People don't prime the pad fully.
Yeah.
It's logic. Once you prime the pad fully, it works. But the fact that's measured 2 microns removal in one pass, we did 2 with a rotary, so 8 off. And I said to you earlier that people think the rotary is more aggressive. And I said to you, it doesn't matter what you get to. If it takes 10 microns to remove all the defects, it doesn't matter if you sand it, hit it hard with a wall pad, or do it in minuscule steps, it ends up, you've taken 10 off.
Yeah.
That's all that matters at the end. How you take 10 is up to you. I wouldn't have sanded this because you affect the orange peel.
Yeah.
You change the appearance. So I never sand deep defects like this because that means you've got a patch which looks different
to the rest of
the car. And that there we just done, that microfiber pad compared to a purple foam wall pad is about the same cut.
Yeah.
So we could have done it with either.
Yeah.
And that's what I said to you, I think I could do this with many ways. And it's what preference. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I was expecting to have a lot more cut on obviously the wall.
Of course you would.
With the rotary compared to the DA.
But are you happy with that?
Yeah.
What you've done?
No, I'm really
Do you understand? You almost could have just done that with a microfiber pad as well. You wouldn't have with the little amount of compound you've got.
Well, I think that's obviously not trying to save compound. I didn't.
You was trying to save compound, but you're actually really slowing the process down.
Yeah, when you're spending
your time
constant
is far more expensive than the products that you buy.
Yeah, it is.
The amount of times I say to people when they say, oh, they ask how much that pad is or a microfiber, I'm like, it's irrelevant. The amount you should be charging an hour and the total job, buy more of these, not less.
Yeah.
Because once they wear out or these pads wear out or clog, you're slowing your process down and that's costing you far more money. Because you're not charging more because you took longer. You're losing, your hourly rate's going down because you haven't put enough compound or bought enough pads. They're very cheap compared to the process of the car. Helpful?
Massively.
So, thank you. Hopefully that's been really, really helpful to you guys watching. Alex, it's helped you, isn't it?
Yeah, massive.
It's
going to save me a lot of time.
To be honest, I want to say this now. This isn't Alex, it's a one-off. That thing with the microfiber pad and not priming is literally every single person I ever meet in the world. Everyone says, how much compound? Have I got shares in compound companies? No. They're all shocked when I put on. I did a training course a couple of years ago, a group of specialist detailers, high end, about 13 people in there. And as I did the demo with lots of compound, you hear all these whispering and all looking and going, what the hell? Then I literally used a microfiber on a DA machine to take out deep scratches and they're all going, that won't work. And it worked, and it was almost like shock. Then I explained why. Everyone's standing going, like you, this is really silly. Why didn't I think of this?
Yeah.
It's so obvious, but sometimes the obvious is missed.
Yeah, need to be told in the first place.
Yeah. So it wasn't hard, was it?
No.
I knew it wasn't going to be hard. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.